Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Live from Super Soul Farm, this is Wisdom of the Sages, a daily spiritual podcast with your host, Raghunath, and co-host and senior educator at the Bhakti Center, New York, Steve Das. Welcome to the show. This is episode 1398. Woohoo!
Getting
Exciting,
close to that 1400 mark.
Yeah. Can we do something special? We always think of this like when it's too late. We need to do something special.
1500. Do something special for that.
Can we do something sort of special for 1400? 1400's a lot. It's a lot of episodes.
Think about it.
Sometimes we have to like tally the hours. We're like, wait a second, I could have been like an attorney if I just went to law school instead of. I wouldn't be spiritual, but I'd have a real profession. Good morning, Miss Mara. Miss Mara's here spinning the dials.
Good morning.
How are you?
Good.
You got some valuable information for us, please?
Yes, I do.
How do you feel first? Tell us how you feel today.
Great. Thank you. We're a community-supported podcast, and we're grateful for everyone who subscribes to our Sage community platform on wisdomofthesages.com. As your support allows us to continue to dedicate the time to produce quality content for our community. If you have questions about the new platform or the tools and resources available as a supporting member, we're doing 2 30-minute Q&A sessions and demos Wednesday, August 21st. So that's tomorrow.
Ooh.
Yeah, one at noon Eastern time and the other one is 7 p.m. Eastern time. So you can just go to wisdomofthesages.com and click on the calendar and there'll be a link to join. Hope
Great.
to see you there.
We're going to be there, right? Because we're going to be there.
Sage community platform.
Wait, what day is it?
We're
tomorrow?
not going to be there.
We're not going to be there?
Maybe at noon we could do it, but
Oh, yeah.
7
depend-
p.m.
could-
we-
Oh, because we're going to the Something Divine tomorrow in Arlington. I really actually want to be at that meeting. Okay. Let's get. Oh, by the way, I want to give a shout out to Soul Ashraya podcast. There's a link on the message board. I did an interview with these guys. They're like regular Zoomers, others out there, Bhakti Jake and Balaram Shakti, and they did an interview with me yesterday. So if you want to check that out,
I'll put the link in the show notes.
yeah, Soul Ashraya,
Ashraya
Shelter of the Soul.
Little interview. What did you talk about?
We talked about the Krishna book, importance of the Krishna book. What else did we talk about?
We were, I had Maya over and Manohar over last Wednesday. We're probably
Manohar
gonna
with the
make it like a-
tattoos, Manohar?
No, Manohar, he's a brahmachari that lives in the Bhakti Center. He came to the picnic
Okay.
and we read Krishna book.
Oh,
The Shamantaka Jewel stories.
great book, great story.
Incredible intrigue in that one, right?
Yeah. What are we reading that's telling the backstory of that? We're reading some other book that's got some other valuable information on the Shamantaka Jewel. Like the Shamantaka Jewel was
just
on
there's all this
Radha's.
controversy, right?
Radha wore that jewel.
Really?
Yeah.
How did she? Yeah,
She wore it on her Samanta, on her like
part
that
in the hair.
part in the hair. She wore that, and then it was somehow given to. Do you remember, Mara? Oh, then it was somehow given to
The sun god.
the sun god. Yeah, because the sun
Oh,
god is
because
related
she
to
was-
Radharani. Because
She
sun
went
god.
into the Yamuna River with it, and it fell off. And then I think Yamuna gave it to her father, Sridev, right?
Yes, I think that's it.
Then the sun god gave it to Satyajit.
Satyajit. Yeah.
Then Satyajit gave it to Krishna. Krishna gave it back to Satyajit. And then it was stolen.
Well-
and Satyajit was killed.
Yeah, and then they were claiming that Krishna killed Satyajit, and that
But Krishna didn't kill Satyajit.
No, they claimed that there was talk about
There
it. And
was
he had to
talk,
prove
and then
his
Krishna
innocence.
had to go prove that he was innocent.
Yeah,
So then he sought out King of the Bears,
Jambavan.
Jambavan.
And then
Krishna
had
picked
to
up
fight
two wives along the way, two beautifully well qualified wives along the way, and then 16,000 more at the end
Yeah.
of the story.
Yeah, great story.
Yeah, and then Krura got involved in it.
Yeah, there's a great
Oh.
painting of that too. Kura holding the Shamataka jewel.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Okay. So what are we
So-
reading about? What's our nugget today?
oh, this is a good nugget. You sent it to me last
You like
night.
this?
Oh yeah. But so anyway, check out Soul Ashraya podcast. It was very,
Okay.
very cool. And I'd like to support those guys who support the podcast.
Has yours come out yet, or is it?
Yeah,
yet
it
to
just
be-
came out. It just
Okay.
came out. Were you on that too?
On that in the interview, you didn't
No.
notice whether I was there or not.
No, were you
I
on
guess
that
you
podcast?
don't really pay
Were you
attention
on
to me
their
at all, do you?
podcast as well?
No, I haven't
Okay.
been.
Gotta get you. You know what? You know what I thought of when I heard this
Nugget.
nugget? I thought of you.
Oh,
I thought of
it's-
you.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll tell you why.
All right.
Gives me a
Who's it
chance
from?
to appreciate you. It's from Benjamin Franklin, very wise man. Although I
He did
heard
have some wisdom, didn't he?
he did. He also had some women. I think he was
You
a
always
woman.
go there, Raghunath. I
Well,
don't think that's fair for you to do that. You don't know the actual.
Can someone Google up and
circumstance.
see if Benjamin Franklin was a womanizer? I'm pretty sure he was. I'm not saying that people who do
No.
sinful things don't have other good qualities also.
Why must you focus on the negative?
Good
Why
point.
must you go there?
Good. Well, because we're quoting him.
And
So
it's hundreds of years later. We don't even know if it's how true it is or what the circumstances were.
like maybe they just
Maybe
need
his
the
wife was just
affection.
really hard to deal with, and then he went to France and he's on the other side of the world. You got to ride a boat for months to get there, and it's, I don't know what
Okay,
his
you know,
circumstances. I'm not. I'm not gonna
whatever it
judge.
was, I like his statement here.
Okay.
And contentment makes poor men rich, and discontentment makes rich men poor.
Maybe he should have been more content with his wife.
Yeah, maybe he was writing about himself. A lot of times we come up with these
He could have
things
been. He could have been.
because he was married too.
Okay. Read it again, Raghunath.
Contentment makes a poor man rich.
Rich.
If you don't have anything, you look at these like Brahmins who actually have nothing, but they're completely peaceful. It's not like they're like, oh God, I need the new iPhone. I can't have this one. It's our desires drive us insane.
That's a really important phrase, and I think that's going to come up later in today's show, that our desires drive us.
Hmm.
They drive
Insane.
us in the membrane.
Insane. Just desires searching through. Yeah, I can relate to it.
Yeah, contentment
Um,
makes poor men rich. The whole point of getting rich is so that you can become content, right?
Right.
But the idea is you can actually become content without being rich, and then you actually have the satisfaction, the contentment that you're looking for. And as long as you have greed, as long as you think you need more, you'll never be content, and you'll always be disturbed. Of course. Go ahead.
There's that famous story about Chanaka, I think it was, about he was sitting in the sun, and Alexander's army came. I'm not going to call him the Great because he invaded India.
I'm sorry, who was sitting there?
I think it was Chanaka. I'm
Chanakya
not
Pandit?
positive. If it wasn't Chanaka, it was some
Some
sage.
classic Indian wise.
Indian sage sitting in the sun with his shirt off, sitting in
India.
meditation and looking at the ocean. And Alexander came with his whole army, and
Alexander the Great.
yeah, he was confused with all these mendicants, and I think they had some respect for them as well. And he said, "So what are you doing here?" He goes, the sage said to Alexander, "Well, what are you doing?" He goes, "Well, I just conquered all of Persia." And he said, "Well, what are you going to do next?" And he goes, "Well, then I'm going to conquer the rest of northern India. That's what I'm coming down to conquer northern India." He goes, "And if you conquer them, where will you go then?" "I'll make my way down to eastern India, southern India." And he's like, "And then what are you going to do?" And he goes, "Well, then I'll work my way back up here, and then I'll head back to Greece." And he said, "And then what are you going to do? And then what are you going to do? And then what?" It's a great question. And then what? It's a great question. He goes, "Well, then I'll just relax." And Chanaka said, "Well, that's a real roundabout way to relaxing. Why don't you just sit with me right now? We can relax right now."
Right.
I'm relaxing right now. Why do we do so many difficult things so we can relax?
Right.
Or as
Why
my
don't you
good friend
relax?
Mukunda Kishore says, when is enough enough? When is enough
There
enough?
you go.
Like how
Yeah.
much, what do you need to finally say, okay, now work is over? And I think people get addicted to work and
Mhm.
they become spiritual life almost becomes a little too enigmatic and mysterious. And they're like, you know what? I know work. I'm just going to do that. I don't know self and I don't know God. And so I'm just going to keep that at a distance. So I think there's an importance to working, to being responsible, to being dharmic. Then there has to be a time, and I'm reevaluating my own life as well. Like, when do I just start going on pilgrimage exclusively for me, not for bringing people on pilgrimage? When do I start realizing like I just want to stay in Vrindavan and immerse myself? When do I say, you know what? Today is hearing and chanting day. Today, you know,
Sounds like you're
it's like
saying you want to serve others less. What is going on here? You do so much nice service for people on those pilgrimages.
I do a lot of nice service, but there has to be a time where you're going to take care of yourself. Although I will say, I think my consciousness is better when I'm serving other people if I'm then rather than sitting alone. But what I feel like is I do need some more like quality time of myself, and not just in India, because you don't have to. Krishna is not India's God. God is God for everybody in every culture, and therefore you can have God right in your living room if you know how to access God. And it starts with your desire to access God. So why not just have a day, a week that this is God's day? I'm just going to be with God today, and then because we start off in our sadhana, and this is one thing I spoke about I think on the podcast yesterday. Oh, actually, no, another podcast I did yesterday was like how do you add, someone was saying my life is so chaotic and I raised a bunch of children. How do I get God in my life? And I was saying, well, you got to call God in your life. You got to call God in your life. And we do it in this tradition by adding a little God in the morning. And if that works out well, you expand it a little bit more. And then you add a little God in the evening and you make a little sandwich out of it.
Okay.
We're all caught up in our chaos and all our busyness. But we have a little time before the busyness and to wind us down. And then as kids start to grow up and life oftentimes can get a little more uh, there's a little bit more of a relief. Then we start to pad the beginning and the end of the day. And Coach Steve, I'm seeing this a lot with a lot of the kids who are now men in their 50s, who grew up with me getting into bhakti. They were from the hardcore scene, and I see that they're very serious about their spiritual life. Their kids are now growing up, and
Yeah.
they're padding more the evening and the morning time to their life. And until like you're just really want your consciousness to be God conscious. So I'm starting to analyze my life. I'm getting older. My kids are sort of going up and doing their own thing.
Time is precious.
Time is precious, and you know, you don't have any problems, or you have. Here's the idea I'm thinking of. You have millions of problems until you get a big health issue, and when you get a
Then
big
you have
health
one
issue,
problem.
then you got one problem. You know, how am I going to deal with this health issue? And this is how the devotees say, you know, the real problems of life: birth, death, disease, and old age. You know, we don't think of birth as a problem, and sometimes we don't think of death as a problem because, well, we're not going to be there. But you think of disease and old age, and part of old age is I can't do what I used to do anymore. So these are really big
Oh,
issues that we have.
I think what that illustrates is that we think things are so important and we can't let go of them. There's no way I would be doing more spiritual right now,
Mm.
but I can't because there's these really important things that I can't let go of. But then once you become sick, you have to let go of those things. You
You're
do let go
forced
of
to
those
let
things.
go it.
And you see, you actually could have all along. You know, you ever hear Radha Swami tell that story about Kailash? This person named Kailash. I
No.
remember once Radha Swami, my wife and I went to India one year and we arrived on New Year's Eve.
Hmm.
And then we went kind of like straight into Maharaj's class that he was given in the Radha Gopinath temple. You know, packed out, everybody there on New Year's Eve night, and he gives this talk on time, on time,
Mm.
you know, and it was really fantastic talk. But in it, he told the story of this person named Kailash, like this man who had this family, and Narada comes to him. I think he was a disciple of Narada, And Narada said, it's time, you really need to begin to dedicate more of your time to practicing bhakti, getting deeper in your spiritual life. And he says, Narada, it's so true, but right now, I'm just starting my business and starting my home, but as soon as I get that in place, then I'll be ready to dedicate more time to my spiritual life. And so Narada comes back after some time. It's like, okay, you got your home, you have your business set up. Yeah, but now I have kids to take care of, and it's really, it requires so much of my time. When my kids are grown up, you come back and we'll talk about spiritual life. And then so he comes back when the kids are grown up, and he's like, now are you ready to dedicate your time? He says, yeah, but now I have grandkids or something. It's like it's always something.
Yeah,
like,
it's always something.
and then what happens is he dies before he ever dedicated any time to his spiritual life, and he takes birth as a snake.
Mm.
And I think he may even taken birth as a dog first, and then he takes birth as a snake or something like that. And then I've lost you now. Ragnar's like, Kastuba's taking too long. His stories aren't allowed to go
you
this
said
long.
snake. And me and my son were watching rubber snake prank videos yesterday.
Okay.
And you lost me there. I just went right to the rubber.
Oh, okay.
Go on.
So he takes birth as a snake, and Narada comes up to the snake, and the snake is like, it's me, Kailash.
Kailash, the snake.
And he says, okay, are you ready now? And he says, well, I can't because they're still my family, and I got to look after them. And then Narada, he goes to the family, and he says, there's a snake in your yard, and they all come out with like
his family.
sticks.
It's human family.
Yeah, it's human family, and his human family all come out with sticks, and they're chasing the snake, and he's like, just to show that it's like we're moving through different bodies and different lives, and we're always thinking, I don't have time. There's something more important, but there's nothing more important. We got to dedicate. We got to become content with what we have, so that we make time and space in our calendar, space in our mind, to be able to invest that in bhakti, and therefore that contentment is so important. We read that letter from Prabhupada the other day that he wrote, where he said, Vaishnava means one who is able to sit down anywhere under any conditions and be happy. We need to become more like that,
How
more
nice.
Yeah. I thought I could read a little from Edwin Bryant's Yoga Sutras.
I'm excited Edwin Bryant's going to be on the show.
Right? Yeah.
He's coming back on the podcast.
Do we have a date for that?
I don't know. Who's doing the interview, you or me?
I think you're doing that one. Okay. But here, santosha, or contentment, is one of the niyamas, right? One of these ethical, practical considerations in one's life. And so it speaks about santosha, and then Edwin Bryant draws from the different commentators that share their thoughts on it, classical commentators, right? So he writes, contentment, santosha, is the second niyama. It manifests as disinterest in accumulating more than one's immediate needs of life. Okay? Disinterest in accumulating more than I need. Vachaspati Mishra points out that the desire to appropriate the possessions of others has in actuality already been given up in the yama stage. Okay, detail there. As the Gītā informs us, desire is the real enemy of the embodied soul, since it is never satisfied and burns like fire. Meaning the more that you feed it, it doesn't become satisfied, it burns still more.
Such a trick.
Such a trick. He says, true happiness comes from contentment with whatever one has, not with thinking that one will be happy when one gets all they desire. Even if there's some lack, says Shankara. So Shankaracharya is speaking now. Even if there's some lack, one thinks it is enough. That's where we get. Yeah, even if it's not quite enough, it's enough. You live in that small little apartment. Yeah, but it's enough.
You know what? You
don't have a new car. It's okay.
You and Mara are incredibly content, I will say. just observing you both. I'm going to put that out there to our audience.
Well,
Out
thank
of the
you.
three, I'm the least content.
Okay. Well,
And I grew up in a family where my parents were so ridiculously content.
were they?
Oh God, yeah. They didn't spend a farthing, you know? They didn't have that much money. They didn't
Well, does
spend
that
it.
mean they were miserly or that they were content?
Well, I don't know what you call miserly or thrifty. They saved their money. They saved their money.
Okay.
They didn't spend their
In other
money
words,
on
their needs were simple. They didn't feel they
their
needed to
needs were
accumulate
super
more.
simple. I don't think I bought new clothing my entire
We were
until I
like
was like
that when we
could
were
buy
kids, though. I was thinking,
everything was from Salvation Army.
when we were kids, it was the common thing. It was very common. It's like everyone did it, that your pants had holes in them and you would patch them up, right?
Oh yeah, we patched our clothes.
That was like every kid did that. The knees
Then
of
I
the
buy Tough Skins that had the built-in patches on them. Remember that,
Toasty.
like the Sears
Yeah, yeah.
jeans? But I was like, I went to Salvation Army for clothing ever since I was a baby. Like I knew the entire staff of the Danbury, Connecticut Salvation Army. And then when it became cool, when I was a punk rocker in 8th grade, to go to Salvation Army, buy some crazy outfits, everybody at Salvation Army would be like, "Hey Ray, what's going on?" And all my friends were like, "How do you know all these people at Salvation Army?" I was like, "Oh, they're all family friends."
Okay, so Shankar
So
says,
yeah, it was like they were
yeah,
just content with stuff. We didn't get new stuff.
yeah, right. Now Shankar says this.
That's it.
He said, even if it's not quite enough, you train your mind to just respond. It is enough. Or as Hari Harananda puts it,
Hariharananda, that's a great name. I have a deity
Hari
name. One of my
Harananda,
deities' name is Harihar.
or as Hari Harananda puts it, to avoid injury. Oh, this is so important. And this actually, I think Hari Harananda got this from Bhagavatam because it's a verse that we're going to read today. This is a lesson for life right here.
Okay, I'm
As
all
Hari,
ears.
as Hari Harananda puts it, to avoid injury from thorns, one only has to wear one pair of shoes. One doesn't need to cover the entire earth with leather.
Say
Okay.
that again. Say that again.
In order to avoid injury from thorns,
Yeah.
one only has to wear one pair of shoes.
Okay.
One
Okay,
doesn't
I
need to
get
cover
you.
the entire earth with leather.
So it says it makes it sound like they wore leather shoes back then.
Well, that's not the
That's the
that's
first
not
thing
the
I got
issue.
from it.
Okay. No, the
But
message
yes,
is
I understand it.
I
We don't
can
have
make
to
a
have
let me adjust myself rather than adjust the entire world. Let me learn to be content. That's one adjustment. That's like putting on the shoes, right? Then I don't have to adjust everything else in the world. If I make that one adjustment in myself that I learn to be content, then I don't have to adjust but if I never learn to be content, I will constantly be adjusting things in the world. It'll take all my time, it'll take all my energy, it'll eat up all my mental bandwidth. I will not have the ability to focus and absorb my mind spiritually. That's a good one, right?
I was hoping to be more content at this stage in my life. Last time I went to your house, it was very hot, and you were sitting there.
That wasn't the last time you came to my house.
That
That
was
was the last time
well,
you went to my old apartment.
really? Okay, whatever. It
Right.
was hot.
That
and
really hot day?
yeah, and you were really tolerant, and I was just like, "Damn, it's so hot in here, Kastuba." You're like, "What do you mean?" You
That
like
was a
didn't
hot
even
day.
notice it, didn't care, and I was thinking, is he crazy? Why is he so crazy? Why doesn't he just get a little air conditioner here?
Well,
I was like angry at you for not having a little
we have
air
different
conditioner.
bodily
But you,
constitution too.
it's
Like
not that. It's just like you're
you got a
tolerant.
fiery, you got more
It's
of a
not.
pit in you.
Yeah, I do run hot. That's for sure. But I was still almost. I was like angry at you for being content. That's how discontent I am.
All right. But I also was thinking of this point. This is an important point too. When we speak like this, a lot of the Western minds out there, I think the Eastern mind, although it may not be so prominent in the modern day, which has been so influenced by the West, but the Eastern mind's kind of like, yeah, we've always had this tradition of these monks that taught these kind of values. Whereas in the West, we've pushed other values so much to the forefront that to hear talk of contentment almost sounds like laziness or, this person isn't industrious enough. They're not a go-getter. They're wasting their life.
Yeah, you're a loser. You're a loser. There's
But
no appreciation for enunciation.
But I have another nugget here from someone named Macintosh. It doesn't. I don't have anything but Macintosh. That's all I got.
So Mac.
And he said, "It is right to be content with what we have, never with what we are." And that's the fact that the Western people that
like
are
that.
so eager to go out and get more stuff, they're content with what they are, right?
That
They're
is a
content
great
with their
point,
own, yeah.
Macintosh.
They're content with what poor level of spiritual evolution they've achieved. Whereas the 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 renounced person who, the yogi who's become content with the externals is very ambitious internally to always be improving themselves, improving their inner world,
Mm.
which is, in one sense, far more challenging. It's harder to shift that subtle stuff than it is to shift the gross stuff,
Roger Tompkins, who is a regular listener to us,
Mm-hmm.
he writes, and he lives in a van in a very nice place in
Okay.
California. In
You
what's
can
that
do
place
that in
called?
California, right?
It's
You
where
can live
Maya's
in.
from. I can't remember.
Okay, what does he say?
Anyway, he says, I want to move out of my van into an apartment. So I have a bathroom and a kitchen. Should I try to just be content with these things? How do we decide what is enough?
I think that's reasonable.
That's a
Bathroom and kitchen is like a
I
reasonable.
don't, but you say once you get a bathroom and a kitchen, you're adding complication to van life.
All right.
You
A
know,
van
there's
can
something
be
to be.
complicated too, though. But you need, I suppose most people feel like I live in New York. One of the things I like about living in New York,
You have a bathroom.
well, there's that, but I don't need a car. Right. Once you
Y-
get that car, that's like complicated.
Yeah.
Insurance, parking, maintenance, repair,
Yeah.
gasoline.
Mara's got to do her inspections today.
See, complicated.
It's complicated. Yep. So is an
You
apartment.
decide,
So is an
Roger.
apartment. So is an apartment.
Not
Well, he doesn't live in New York City,
I know. So therefore,
so
he's going to need that
he
van,
needs a
even if
vehicle.
he's going to need a vehicle anyway.
Anyway, we don't have an answer for you because Stu was
Don't
trying to
have an
push you
answer.
into moving to Manhattan, which that'll make your life real
I
simple.
wasn't. You see,
Not.
why do you interpret things like that? I just shared something from my own life. I didn't in any way try to push him to move to Manhattan.
Anyway,
All right, let's get into
Roger
the show.
Tompkins, we have no answer for you, but I appreciate your
Trust you.
simplicity. Yeah. Yeah.
I trust you.
Narayanam namaskrityanam chaivanarottamam devim saraswatim vyasam tato jayam mudirayat. Before he started the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is our very means of conquest, one should offer respectful obeisances to the Supreme Lord Narayan, unto Narayan Rishi, the supermost human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and to Srila Vyasa, name of the author. Nasta prayeshu badreshu nityam bhagavat sevaya bhagavati uttamasloke bhaktir bhavati naishtaki. By regular attendance in classes on the Bhagavatam, and by rendering service to the pure devotees, all that is troublesome in the heart will become eradicated, and loving service to the Supreme Lord, who is praised with transcendental songs, will be established as an irrevocable fact. Om Jnana Tamarandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chaksurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkness of ignorance. My teachers are opening my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my obeisances at their lotus feet. Reading from the Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 7, Chapter 15, text 15?
Did we do 15 yesterday, or did we?
7:15:15. Even if a man is poor, he should not endeavor to improve his economic condition just to maintain his body and soul together, or to become a famous religionist. Just as a great python, although lying in one place, not endeavoring for its livelihood, gets the food it needs to maintain body and soul, one who is desireless also obtains his livelihood without endeavor.
Without endeavor. Back to the python, right? It's learn to be a little more content and create some space, some bandwidth for spiritual life.
You know, when we lived in ashrams, you and I were very mission driven. It's not like we were just hanging out in the ashram. We had a mission.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it was not. We had schedules. We had day planners.
Okay.
It's not like you and I were just kicking back with a piece
No,
of
the hours
long
of the day,
grass in
man.
our mouth.
That was the day we're full.
Every moment was accounted for. But there were these random people that were just like living in the ashram,
Loafing
kicking it
around.
way. I'm not gonna even call it loafing,
Okay.
but they were just like kicking it
More
back.
relaxed.
And I always thought to myself, I was like, you could just do this too, Raghu. You could just do. These guys are doing it. They're just living here, you know.
But your mind needs the engagement, right?
I think it's our mind needs to be engaged.
Well, we were talking yesterday about one who's found satisfaction in the self. For them, there's no duty.
Hmm.
But until we get there, we better keep that mind pretty busy, right?
Yeah. Living in ashram was fun, wasn't it?
Yeah.
That was so much fun and crazy and fun and people that you meet. One who is content and satisfied and who links his activities with the supreme personality of Godhead, residing in everyone's heart, enjoys transcendental happiness without endeavoring for his livelihood. Where is such happiness for a materialistic man who is impelled by lust and greed, and who therefore wanders in all directions with a desire to accumulate wealth? You know what I'm appreciating lately, Kostuba? A lot of like senior devotees that I know are just, zipped up devotees. And a lot of people I know in like where I live in Columbia County, they're getting rid of their smartphones and going back to flip phones because
Simplifying it.
they realize like the simplicity. Look, you want to call your kids if they're out and you want in an emergency, but like we've taken it to this next level now. We're complicated. We live with our face in a phone.
Yeah.
And these sadhus, they didn't have to worry about that. They just had the simple basic things. Um
That phone is an extension of our senses, right?
hmm,
It allows us to see further. It allows us to hear more. It functions as a mind, which is considered the sixth sense. It's a place to collect the information and store
hmm,
the information, draw the information back up, process the information. So it's just an extension of the senses.
yeah.
And I think we get the idea, if we're fortunate, we get the idea that it's driving us, right? The senses are driving us. And so with the phone, we realize I've become a slave to this thing. It's eating up my time. It's eating up my energy. It's eating up my bandwidth. It's eating up my money. Why not simplify?
Yeah. I put with my older kids, I feel like I was a little bit more responsible because they went to a Waldorf school and they didn't get phones till they were 16. With
Okay.
Tarun, he got sort of like he sort of snuck
Is it
under the
because the
radar.
world's a little different, or is because he's
Not
got
because of the
other
world, just
siblings that have
because
that equipment?
this family structure sort of like broke apart and then
Oh yeah, made it a little
yeah.
tougher. Huh?
And anyway, but now I've got him on this reading program, which when you have devices, and this is not like okay when you're in school, it's adults as well. It's like
Yeah.
audiobooks. People don't read as much anymore. They want audiobooks. I'm the same way. But I got him to read for an hour a day. That's his new program. He reads Mahabharata for an hour a day.
I'm listening. That's great. An hour a day. That's great.
Yeah,
That's
an
great.
hour just to sit for a kid, for a 10-year-old to just sit and read the Mahabharata for an hour. That's good.
That's
It's
great.
great.
Yeah.
Then he has to do mridanga every day, practice mridanga, and then we do
And we were talking about
kirtan
that.
together every day.
Yeah, that he's how old is he now?
He's 10.
And he can play in a kirtan. He's good enough to play. Yeah.
Well, he's good enough to play with me. I wouldn't say to like, but I want my
No,
goal is
but
to get him by next year to actually be part of. He could follow, like when he follows
okay.
his
So
brother.
that's
He's
so
really
he's
good.
there now at what
Yeah,
10 you said? 10?
10. Yeah,
So imagine when he's 20, he's going to be expert and he'll have that for his whole life.
I know.
And having that skill will it, on so many levels it's important, right? It keeps him connected to the culture, it keeps him connected to Krishna. It gives him opportunities to meet people, and it gives him a chance to absorb his own mind in the kirtan. It's so good on so many levels, and he'll
Yeah,
become expert.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's great. It's great habits. Karuna, our little 10-year-old on the board,
No, Karuna.
and she said I can read Ramayan for 2 hours. You
Whoa.
had to one up him, didn't you, Karuna? And if no one stops me, and there is no philosophy. Yeah, I know what you mean. Well, we're reading the Kamala Subramaniam Mahabharata, so that has a lot of these British words
Oh yeah.
that you know, he has to like, what does I don't know.
That's great thinking of Karuna reading Ramayana for 2 hours, not getting tired of it.
Yeah.
Good stuff. 10 years
What,
old.
what were we doing at 10 years old?
10 years old, about to turn
God
11.
knows what we were doing at 10 years old, Prabhu.
Yeah.
We didn't have smartphones, but our faces were my face was
Television.
glued to reruns.
Okay.
And I played outside, rode my bike 24/7. Okay. Text 16.
Text
One
16? Is it?
Yes, one who is content and satisfied and who links his
Oh,
activities.
no, you read that one.
No, I didn't.
You did. Wandering here and there.
Text 16.
Read it again.
One who is content and satisfied and who links his activities with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, residing in everyone's heart, enjoys transcendental happiness without endeavoring for his livelihood. Whereas such happiness for a materialistic man who is impelled by lust and greed, and who therefore wanders in all directions with a desire to accumulate wealth. Where is such happiness for a materialistic man who is impelled by lust and greed, and who therefore wanders in all directions with a desire to accumulate wealth?
Lost. If I like the beginning, one who is content and satisfied and who links, here's the clue, right? And who links their activities with the Supreme Personality of Godhead residing in everyone's heart. There's your key, you know? You're going to find contentment there. When you have God in your heart, you're never alone, right? You're satisfied simply. You know, you can open up that conversation. You can begin to feel that increase your awareness just through your intention to do it. Get started at it, right? Think of God in your heart. Talk to God in your heart. It's going to be so much easier to be content simply. It's going to be so much easier to respect every living being. That's a key focus for the yogi.
Okay, text 17.
Now this is the one where I think Hari Harananda was drawing his thing from.
For a person who has suitable shoes on his feet, there's no danger even when he walks on pebbles and thorns. For him, everything is auspicious. Similarly, for one who is always self-satisfied, there is no distress. Indeed, he feels happiness everywhere.
Yeah. So the adjustment of cultivating being self-satisfied, simply satisfied internally rather than externally, is synonymous, or being compared here to putting on a pair of shoes. You make that one adjustment, and now you're ready for anything.
Yeah.
Whereas if you're barefoot, you're always worried about walking over here. Can I walk over there? We need to pave that better. We need to get this done. No, just put on a pair of shoes. One internal adjustment, one self-adjustment, and now you're ready for the world. I think we've also got to this point. I don't want to get into too political stuff here, but
No.
we just don't have wisdom, So even the good intentions, they start to go into crazy places. So now we're so concerned with people's feelings that we want to adjust the entire world
To adjust to everyone's feelings. Good luck with that.
Yeah, what we really need to do is tell people how to deal with their feelings.
How about I take no? How about the third? What is it? The second pillar, or the third pillar of bhakti? I take no offense. How about teach people not to be so easily offended?
Yeah,
you'll be much more content.
It's not that we shouldn't be. I mean, also we shouldn't offend others. So that should be taught too, and that should be emphasized. But trying to adjust society, like every little tiny aspect of society, is so crazy. We need to teach each other. We need to train our children. We need to train ourselves in how not to be, immobilized, by any little thing that we hear, in the world,
That statement itself is triggering me. And I'm sorry. You're going to have to. I'm out of here. I need a safe space right now.
I don't feel safe anymore.
I don't feel safe.
It's too much. It gets to be too much.
Your words are violence, Kastuba.
I'm sorry.
Now I'm going to punch you out for saying that, which is not violence. It's a response to your violence.
Okay. All right.
What?
All right. Put on a pair of shoes.
Listen here. I had something very deep to say, but now I forgot it.
It's all right.
Person is It's not all right.
It's probably
Are you
offensive
kidding?
anyway. So
It's not. For a person, okay.
text 18.
18. My dear King, a self-satisfied person can be happy even with only drinking water.
Whoa.
However, one who is driven by the senses, especially by the tongue and the genitals, must accept the position of a household dog to satisfy his senses. That means
A
always
household
begging,
dog.
always begging.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
What I wanted to say was this all sounds great, Santosh, but at the same time, we're also like carved a certain way. We're wound up a certain way. We're programmed a certain way.
Yeah.
So I know a lot of people who are just driven to do business, and they're very good at it. And I think under the orders, not orders of guru, but under the
Direction.
direction and inspiration by their teacher, a good teacher of them won't say give up your business. They'll say try to do what you do, but connect it somehow to your spiritual life, or else what'll happen is that you got to figure out what that balance is for you. I know that I wouldn't have lasted long in an ashram if I wasn't doing what I was doing with my music. I was being creative. I was traveling. I was teaching, and I was happily engaged in a work that supported me as a devotee. So we can't just walk away from how we're programmed. We have to do what we do in a very positive, in a spiritual way, though, instead of just doing it for just accumulation of stuff. Y- If you're driven to accumulate stuff, it's not like it's evil. It's just got to be tempered. And to just say I'm just going to be Santosh and give it all up, that's
Well, no,
most likely not going to
but
work.
but let's not create a false dichotomy here, right? Even if you're engaged in that business world, you still have to cultivate this
I said
contentment.
that.
Okay. Well, it sounded like what you said right there was almost
You have to
like
connect it to your spiritual life.
okay, but
Your
connected.
spiritual life is inherently has an essence, an element of contentment.
Okay, there we go. Because that's Bhagavad Gītā, where Arjuna's being told by Krishna, you have to fight this battle. You
Right.
need to engage your skills and your nature in a very worldly realm, like maybe the most worldly, right? So
Yeah.
he says that, and he says it's because it's your adhikar, because it's your qualification, because you haven't cultivated deep satisfaction, inner satisfaction, then you need to engage yourself in this type of karma, in this type of work. But then he says, but you're not entitled to the fruits of action, right?
Mm-mm.
Karmanya veda karaste ma pali shukadachana ma karma pala heterbor. The taste sangos to a karmani. You have to work because of your nature, but you're not entitled to the fruits of action. That's Santosh, right? Never consider yourself to be the cause of the results of your activities, and also never be attached to not doing your duty. Be satisfied and engage that nature. But Santosh is always stressed.
Nice.
All right. But I was thinking, if we look at this verse, it's saying the tongue, the genitals, right? It's just like it's getting graphic, but but it's saying, it's like we're 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 popped into these virtual bodies, and they have these senses that, we're given this equipment, the senses, so that we can pursue happiness through sense enjoyment separately from Krishna. That's kind of what the realm is kind of designed for. We enter into the body. Here's your tongue. Here's your genitals. Go enjoy it now, right?
Mhm.
But quickly, if we're insightful, we see these senses overwhelm us, and we become driven by them. We're not just like at our own will engaging them for our pleasure. We become driven by them
Mm.
and fall into loops of karma, action and reaction, and we suffer because of them. And now they're dragging us here and dragging us there.
Mhm.
So he says, a self-satisfied person is happy just even drinking water. However, one who is driven by the senses, especially the tongue and genitals, must accept the position of the household dog, right? You've degraded yourself. Not trying to criticize any household dogs,
It's interesting to know they all had household dogs.
They even had household
I
dogs.
didn't even know they had dogs back then.
All right.
All right. We got time for one more, I think.
All right.
My dear king, a self-satisfied person because
19.
of greed, for the sake of the senses, the spiritual strength, the education, austerity, and reputation of a devotee or brahmana
Oh,
who
this
is
is
not self-satisfied, dwindle, and his knowledge gradually vanishes. Because of greed for the sake of the senses, the spiritual strength, the education, the austerity, and the reputation of a devotee who is not self-satisfied dwindles, and his knowledge gradually vanishes.
So important for people within the realm of, for lack of a better word, let's say like ministry, right? Like where you're a person that people come to for inspiration and guidance in spiritual life, whether
Yeah.
a priest or rabbi or some kind of Brahmin or lama of some sort.
Lama.
Dalai Lama. Um, that you need to keep, reflect on this, right? Let's see where he goes again. That if you become driven by your senses, if you lose touch, once it's important. We talked a few weeks back about that book by Tolstoy, that Father Sergius.
Yeah.
He became very renounced and even mystical, but then you get a reputation, and then through that reputation, opulences come. It may come in the form of wealth. It may come in the form of fame. And you learn to find your satisfaction there rather than being satisfied without that. Oh, I don't get my I have santosha. I have contentment. I'm not looking for fame to find my happiness. I'm not looking for wealth that may come through my ministry or whatever. I'm detached from those things. If you're not detached from those things, you're going to lose it all. What you gain through your austerity and through your studies and through your practices, the realizations that you've gained, the knowledge that you've gained, the reputation, your spiritual reputation, and people's trust in you as a spiritual leader. If you lose touch with being content simply, you're going to lose that.
Mm.
You're going to lose it all. It's all just going to seep out the cracks. And then you have two choices. And because it happens slowly, you don't even know when you have to make that choice, but
Right.
you either have the choice of going back and cultivating that santosha again through practicing austerity and letting go of things and simplifying your life, or faking it, right? Now you're like an empty shell where you're like presenting yourself as if I got deep spiritual realization and so on, and you really don't anymore. And now you're living in a world of hypocrisy. So that stuff will slip away if one's not careful.
Like that.
All right.
Like that. That's our show today. Our show. It's a
Are
show.
you satisfied with? Are you content with today's show?
Yeah, I am content.
Okay, Mara, how about you?
Yes, I
Mara's
gotta-
always content.
Mara's
Mara,
always
you
like,
gotta
we only get half a Mara from
Sorry.
there.
You
We
always
go.
get you're like Bunky Bihari. He's like half male and half woman.
Did you see that? I sent you a little Bunky Bihari thing.
Yeah, that was so good.
I'm glad you liked it. little
Yeah, little things me and
Little reel.
Kostuba share with each other in the course of the day.
sometimes little comical things, sometimes little spiritual things.
Sometimes a little funny, a little spiritual.
Seinfeld clips, perhaps.
Seinfeld clips.
Could be.
But there was one I want to show you because you were saying, I used to be friends with that comedian Andy Dick. Do you remember him?
No.
Oh, I'm gonna send you a funny Andy Dick clip because you were saying something that Andy Dick was saying.
Really?
What were you saying the other day? You're going, this is my house. I can't remember where you were saying. Whose house is this? I can't remember what you were saying. Okay, I'm gonna send you this video and you're gonna laugh.
All right.
Okay, go on.
All right, you ready for some takeaways?
Yes.
Our desires drive us insane.
Oh, in the membrane, Mara.
In the
Insane in the membrane.
Don't.
I'm getting bad now. I'm always doing the songs now.
No. As long as you think you need more, you'll be disturbed.
Insane. You got no brain. That was
That was
such
the
a
last
good
one.
song, huh? I first heard them when I came out of the ashram. So I
Okay.
went into the ashram, with one concept of what hip hop was, came out to
There's a
DMX,
whole
Cypress
nother thing.
Hill, and those, the white guys from Boston doing jump around.
That's the House of Pain.
House of Pain.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's House of Pain.
The original house.
Are they from Boston or are they Brooklyn?
Boston, I think.
I think they're
Right.
just Irish, but they're from Brooklyn, I think.
I don't know.
Someone had
Someone tell me on the message
George,
board.
George
please.
give me the thumbs up on that one. Brooklyn.
When is enough enough?
I don't know. Never for the one that has no santosha. Never. Who told you that? Who said when is enough enough?
Mukunda Kishore.
Mukunda Kishore.
Sandwich your day with God.
It's a God sandwich, we call it.
Mhm.
Don't eat it, but just use it as an analogy.
Devour it.
Eat a God sandwich.
Make time and space to get serious about your spiritual life.
Okay.
Let's get serious.
Oh, they're from Boston, Roland. That was wrong.
Huh?
Oh.
They're from Boston.
I was thinking of Lords of Brooklyn, apparently.
Lords of Brooklyn.
Adjust yourself instead of trying to adjust the world.
I could see myself in a white hip hop band.
That would have been interesting. That would have been interesting.
Yeah.
I always saw you as part of a comedy trio.
Oh, that would have been great.
You,
I
Maris got the
would have
squirrel.
loved that. Maris got the squirrel for the first time.
You, Abhay,
Oh, Abai. I tell you,
And-
nobody was more funny than Abai.
and Vidugdha Madhava. Remember Vidugdha
Oh,
Madhava?
yeah. I wasn't that good of friends with him.
No, but
I-
he was like that tall, quirkier kind of humor. He would have been like the Kramer.
Oh, yeah,
The
yeah.
three of you together, Abai would
Abai
have been kind
was
of like
so
the bully
funny.
kind of comedy guy, and you would have been like the victim of his bullying, but like fighting back.
Did you ever tell? Did Abai ever tell you the time he was he got deprogrammed?
He did actually. He junked the guy under the table, and
No, he like they kidnapped him and they
Yeah.
put him. I don't know if I'm allowed to tell this story. Am I allowed
What's
to tell private stories of people on the show?
yeah, we maybe hold on that, Rogan. I think there's a
Okay.
squirrel coming out.
Okay. All right.
Be content with what we have, not what we are.
Wait a second. Vidugdha Madhava died?
Passed away? I didn't know that.
What?
We got to fill this in on that, Nityananda.
Phyllis
Chandra.
and Nityananda Chandra.
And prayers. Rest in peace in the Vaikuntha. Vidugdha Madhava.
Hare Krishna.
Don't be a slave to your phone.
There you go.
Link your activity with God in the heart.
Rogan, all his energy is drained out now. He's like,
Yeah, well, Vidugdha Madhava died.
yeah,
Mourning.
Okay.
And
And
Ben Franklin should have been content with his wife.
he should have.
Yes, he should
should
have been.
But who knows about that wife? No, just
We
kidding.
don't know. Yeah,
Took
we'll
vows.
blame it on you're mansplaining
He
his
took
situation.
vows.
All right, everybody. Tomorrow's the day. We're going to Boston, Arlington. Go see Something Divine, Thomas Essig's film.
House of
Thanks.
Pain are from Los Angeles? I can't believe that.
I don't believe that. Doug DeMatova, that's the one that lived in Dallas. Yeah.
He was a character.
Anyway, everybody, if you're not a member of our platform, you can do it. You can join our supporting membership because we are a supported membership podcast. If you like what we're doing, you give a monthly contribution. If you feel like you're getting something from this podcast, go to wisdomofthesages.com and you can just register there. We really appreciate it. Lots of stuff coming down because Stuba's dropping things left and right.
Yeah, we just dropped something on the Sage community platform.
Yeah. And Wisdom of the Sages retreat is happening at Super Soul Farm. Looking forward to that. Columbus Day. Oh, Stacey Cabrera's coming, I think. She's raising her hand. I want to see George. If you're coming, I want George there.
They're from
George is driving.
California, Ragnar.
Huh?
They're from California. House of Pain.
Who is? House of Pain?
House of Pain.
Oh,
Who would have thought?
that's what Wikipedia says. Okay, where was Cypress Hills from? They were from Queens.
No, Cypress Hills from California. Holy. We're mixing
I don't know. How do you know? You were living in a temple. at
Because
that
they
time.
totally embody that whole LA thing.
Okay, I don't know. There's no
Cypress
internet.
Hills from
friend.
Brooklyn? No, that can't be.
They were from Woodland Hills. I was from Woodland Hills. No, Cypress Hill is not from Woodland Hills.
They're from Southgate,
No,
California.
House of Pain is
According
from
to
Woodland
Lindsay.
Hills. Okay, I'm gonna look up
Who's from Woodland Hills, Satya Brata?
House of Pain.